He gone. Trovon Reed has moved on to work for his former boss, Gus Malzahn. How will this affect Auburn recruiting? We'll take a look. Also, Auburn basketball entered the top 10 last week and then lost two on the road. Should Auburn fans be worried? We'll dig into this on today's Weekend Tailgate.
This is the Weekend Tailgate. Brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. C-Dub. Ike Joe. Be Will. Mike G. You are now listening to.
What's up, and good afternoon, people. It's the War Report Weekend Tailgate. I'm Mike G, here with Ike Jones and our guy B Will rejoining us after a short hiatus. Guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about Travon leaving. There's some people leaving the staff. And we're going to talk a little basketball today. But before we get into it, guys, do us a favor and share this video using @TheWarReport and hashtag Get Your Weight Up on all social media so you can spread the good word of the War Report. Let people know where to find our content. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Those likes really help us in the algorithm so that we can continue to grow this community. We're at the War Report on X. Feels weird saying X. On Twitter. It's always Twitter. On Twitter and Instagram. TW Report on TikTok. All right, before we get into it, man, get the people the housekeeping notes.
Yeah, first and foremost, go shop with our folks, man. Go shop with the folks at Golden's Cast Iron, man, and get your weight up. You can use code Get Your Weight Up, get a little something off weights. Listen, you know what's around the corner, and it's crazy to say this. Valentine's Day.
That's right.
Don't be looking sloppy out here on your Valentine's dates. You know what I'm saying? Get your weight up or get your weight down, whichever way, you know, it works best for what you got going on. Go get you a couple of Golden's Cast Iron, kettlebells or something. You know, kettlebells are really good exercise tools because you could do so many different things with them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So go get your kettlebell and start your workout routine. All of them New Year's resolutions you made about this is going to be my year where I get in shape. Don't be like me and abandon them after week 2 of the year. Actually, I don't make New Year's resolutions.
I was going to say, damn, 2 weeks.
Yeah, but become a member of the War Report. You could do that, and that's really good thing for you to make a resolution to do. Resolve to be a better Auburn fan and watch film with your boy Ike Jones, and we'll really talk about what's going on out here on the court, on the field, all of those things. So go ahead and get your membership popping. If you are a member and you want to gift the membership, you could do that right now from the live chat, and somebody get a free month of membership on you. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up right now in that live chat if you want to enter the drawing for the mug sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services, and we'll do that drawing right around the 1 hour mark. And if you want to listen to things in podcast format, we got a whole network of people doing a lot of great stuff. We are the Auburn Express. You got the Uptempo podcast, College Loop podcast, and Just a Set podcast, all a part of the War Report network.
Appreciate that, Ike. Guys, let's jump right in here. Travon Reed has taken an on-field position with his former boss, Gus Malzahn. He's left the program. Some fans are upset. I think mostly everybody is happy for him to take this position, right? One of Auburn's most beloved former players turned staffer. Opening thoughts here on this on-field promotion for Travon Reed. Before the broadcast started, you and I had talked a little bit about some fans being upset that this didn't happen here at Auburn. Let's start there. What are your thoughts about him taking an on-field position elsewhere and not at Auburn?
Yeah, I think that I'll say the same thing or similar things to what I said about the Cadillac thing, right? And these are not the same situation, not even remotely. But I think that this was a good move for him in his career. And from his standpoint, this was the only way that this was going to work. I don't know that this was ever going to happen at Auburn, not because Auburn didn't want him, more so because Trovon Reed wanted to make that happened somewhere else before he made it happen at Auburn. And so I'm happy for him for being able. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. Listen, I had conversations with B. Will about Caddy and Zach, and I was like, I don't know, dog. They ain't gonna be here too much longer. If they want to progress their careers, I could see them leaving. I felt the same way about Travon Reed. I didn't think it was gonna happen this quickly, but I am happy that he's decided to go ahead and start the process of him getting these on the field roles, and whatever life has for him down the road. I hope he's extremely successful and then comes back and kills it at Auburn when he's ready to do that.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Brian? He didn't do it here. He's doing it in Florida with the palm trees.
Yeah, he's in Florida. He's gonna make it happen down there with Gus. Gus, you know what? I know Gus was very popular with the players that he recruited and coached. Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty clear Gus is a hometown guy. He is going to stick with you and ride with you. If you ever been good with Gus, you're gonna stay good with Gus. And I know this.
That's kind of honorable, isn't it? Though I mean, he's very consistent on this.
To a fault, because he just hired Ted Roof as a DC, so he had to learn how to draw lines.
But you know what? That's not most coaches are they're prone to go back to coaches that they're familiar with when they get positions available. They're like, hey, I've worked with this guy before. It wasn't terrible. They forget. It's like your ex. It's like, it wasn't so bad. You want to spin the block, and then you get them back in, and you like, this is why. Yep.
Except in this case, though, you can just look at what your ex is doing. What does your defense do last year and the year before, Ted? Oh, okay. So let's get you out of here, buddy. Like, you just got fired by Brent Venables, a noted defensive coach. Anyway, Gus does this, and I do think it's to a credit to Gus that he does this. Again, maybe to a fault. Who was the O-line coach he had that our recruited started to tank under?
Was it Grimes?
No, it wasn't Grimes.
You said, he started to tank under.
He recruited Calvin Ashley.
Was it Friend? It wasn't Friend.
No, this is before Friend.
Y'all know who I'm talking about, right?
I do, and don't make me remember stuff.
Anyway, Gus does
Grimes?
this.
No, he just said it wasn't Grimes.
Yeah, somebody in the chat will hit us with it.
Hand.
Herb Hand. Yeah, to a fault. So I think it's good to get on under somebody who knows you. Like, that's a benefit. You're going to go anywhere brand new to do something. You're going to venture out. Get somebody who knows you, who knows how you work, who understands your value already to put you on. You'll have a longer leash there with them. So that's a good thing. I think this is a great move for Trovon because he's good at what he does. Now, whether or not he can be a good cornerback coach, we know he can play well enough to be in the league. So, okay, hey, you understand the basics. You're not in the league even on somebody's roster on the practice squad if you don't know how to play the position at a fundamental level. So I'm sure he has plenty to offer there. For all of these coaches, and I know everybody's going to be really upset that, hey, they didn't stay at Auburn. They didn't have this grind and build up and move up at Auburn. I think there's value to that. And the value to that is, first of all, you don't have to learn on the job and make mistakes on the job in some of these positions. And what I mean by that is, Caddy, you would figure the next step up to being a head coach would have to be a position coach, not a position, excuse me, a coordinator, and likely offensive. How do you do that? What if he comes out and he is the Auburn Tigers offensive coordinator here under Hugh Freeze, and it would have been bad. And then y'all are calling for Caddy's job the way y'all call for Phil Montgomery's. I don't want our legends to be taken down and berated in public in front of us while they're here. I want them to be celebrated while they were here. They had jobs that they could do well. They recruited well. The position groups that these guys, Zach and Caddy, coached, those position groups played very well. I like them getting out of the house, going to make something of it somewhere else, because what we get as Auburn fans, if they do want to come back, we get to get better coaches when they get back, because they would have had to put their feet in the water of being in unfamiliar territory, recruiting a recruiting area that you aren't familiar with. You know Auburn. Yeah, you know the circumference of our recruiting radius, but did you know it in Florida? Could you make something out of it out there in Houston? If they want to come back here, then we get to have them back here eventually, you would figure, as much better coaches, better at what they do. And I think that's a net positive. You want them here, understanding that this is the best place because we'll always love them here, and that's true, we will. But I don't want like a Scott Frost situation where he went to Nebraska as like the favorite son. He left. They kept him probably 2 years too long because they loved him, but he wasn't good at that job.
Yeah.
I don't think that's where you want to find out that they can't handle the job. So God bless them. Trovon Reed included. I hope he kills it out there. And I know I'm almost positive that he will. You hate to see him go because nobody can sell the home team like these guys can. But you understand that this is still a business, man. They have aspirations, and I hope they get there.
Yeah, look, I don't have a lot here. For what it's worth, if you haven't seen the interview that we did with Travon Reed, yeah, he is like just the ultimate Auburn guy. He loved it here. He believed in selling it. I'll say this. We didn't feel comfortable sharing it at the time because it wasn't our information to share. But now that he's gone, I have permission to share this. You know, he stated to us that he would not take an on-field promotion here, that he wanted to branch out. And there were a couple of reasons. First reason being that the role that he's played for these kids here, he felt like would be too different than the role he would have to play for a coach. He thought the switch up would be hard. And, you know, for what it's worth, he made a promise to Jalen Simpson and some of his teammates that he would stay at Auburn through the time that those guys finished here. He fulfilled that promise to those guys, and now it's time for him to branch out and move on. So this was always in the cards in his mind. So if you're one of those fans on social media coming after Hugh Freeze for not retaining him, you should stop. Like he wasn't. This one's not on Freeze. He you know, and I don't know that a position was offered to Travon anyway, but I'm saying this is what Travon wanted.
Correct.
Right? Like what he's doing. And he went back to familiar territory to coach with somebody who he trusts. And I think that's big. So moving on, guys, let's talk about the hole that Travon leaves. Now, again, if you watch the interview we did with him, excellent on-campus recruiter. He had just gotten permission to go on the road before this happened. So he was not on the road recruiting before. He was just having contact with kids while they were on campus, guys. You know, I jump in here, man. Like, how much does this hurt Auburn in recruiting? You know, is Auburn one or two less big recruits down because Trovon Reed isn't here?
I mean, I think that's yet to be seen. What we do know, Coach Hugh Freeze, if we believe that Travon Reed is a man of his word and he's not just blowing smoke, he said himself, Coach Hugh Freeze has the plan. We're just following what his blueprint is, right? The question is, can he bring somebody else who's able to follow that blueprint just as well? Now, is he going to be able to sell Auburn the same way that Travon is? Absolutely not. He doesn't have the thing. You have to have something to pull on for that to be the case. But that doesn't mean that you can't be a phenomenal recruiter. There are wonderful recruiting staffs around the country that are not comprised of former players for that school. So it is entirely possible to be a great recruiter for an athletic program and not be a former player of said program. So is it possible? Absolutely. I think that, again, you just have to find the right guy that fits what Coach Hugh Freeze wants to do with whatever system he has in place to do that recruiting job. And I mean, that's yet to be seen. It's yet to be seen whether or not it's going to be as effective. But I'd be sitting here lying to you if I said I am 100% confident that someone could do it the way T. Reed did it.
Right.
Because he's just he's his own guy.
Brian, how much does it hurt losing a former player that not only was a former player, but a former player turned pro? I mean, he retired from the NFL like 2020. So he's not been that far removed from playing at the pro level. You know, does this affect Auburn negatively in recruiting?
Again, it's hard to say negatively in recruiting because just as effective a pitch as I played here and I played here at the pro, I play at the pro level playing this position, just as valuable is, well, I've coached your position and the guys I coach go to the league and do well. Like that's equally as valuable. Coach Crime can say that for sure, which is why, again, it's valuable to have him here as well. So it's really hard to say. It's to Ike's point. Who is taking over that role of where you're recruiter number one when they get on campus. Like that's your thing. You're not on the road, or maybe they will open this position up on the road because they had opened Trovon up to it. But whoever fills that role, whether or not they have the chops to be able to pull on the strings, like I just said, I can tell you what Auburn did for me. This is something that Caddy said when he was the interim, and beyond that, I can tell you what Auburn did for me. And when I tell you that sell from that player, former player that's now in a position of authority, is going to be a stronger sell than anything that anybody who did not play for Auburn can give, because you can't fill those shoes like this person can. Mm-hmm. When you come in, you get recruited by Tuberville, your name's up on and your videos up on the board, and you come here and you kill it, and you go number 3 overall, and you have an undefeated season, and you come back and you're heralded. It's like, who can say that outside of Cadillac Williams? Very few people can say it. Trovon can say, well, I was on the national championship team. Was he in 2010? He was on the 2010 team, right? Am I making that up?
No, wait. He was part of the 2010 recruiting class. I think we just did a thing on this.
Yeah, we just did that. Yeah.
So
you have some things.
Don't quote me on that one.
Okay. You have some things that you can pull on in their position. I know Zach was actually, playing on the field for the 2010 class. Other people who aren't Auburn people can't talk about their connection to this team and what success at Auburn as a player has meant for them. But that doesn't mean they can't be effective recruiting. So we will have to see who they put in that position, how good they have been the other places they've been, and whether or not it's as effective a pitch. I think you just asked, well, are we 1 or 2 less major recruits per class? Recruiting is changing quite a bit. And what I mean by that is money, buddy, money. If Auburn's engineering and business graduates keep pitching in like they're doing, if whoever's doing all that calling and reaching out keeps getting all these successful people to pitch in, we'll be just fine, because we still have developers at the positions of need where Trovon could have made the biggest difference. I'm assuming he wasn't specific to a position, so let me not say that. But wherever, if you get good position coaches, the culture will do some of the lifting, the facilities will do some of the lifting, and the money's going to do some of the lifting. If we are sound in each of those positions, we'll continue to recruit at a high level. I don't think we lose too much.
Yeah, I want to talk about this from a different aspect. I think that, again, hard to quantify, but missing the energy and enthusiasm and the spirit that he brings to your staff is going to hurt. Right?
Unless you can find somebody who could
do that. Yeah. I mean, it's just, to me, like Trovon is a rare breed. If you've ever spent any time around this guy, like, his personality is infectious. He's always smiling. You can't help but smile when he's in your presence. Now, imagine bringing a family to campus, and this is one of the first guys they talk to. Sometimes I'll be, I'd be texting with Trovon, and he's like, hey, I'm sitting next to, Coach Freeze right now. He had a great relationship with the head coach. He was a consummate professional, right? But he also knew how to tone down that professional a little bit and relate to people in a way that I think is rare. Yeah. It's rare in people in general, let alone in recruiting. So I do think that it's not just as simple as plug and play in terms of recruiting some of the intangible things that he brings to your staff. And as far as the tangible things that he brought to his staff, he was top tier in that regard as well, too. I talked to some other former players, guys, about being a former player here and coaching here made it significantly easier for them to sell Auburn. Mm-hmm. Having to go to another program and sell that is a little different. Now, if you watch the War Report interview, could you see Travon Reed sitting down and talking passionately about UCF football the way he did with us? There's no foundation for that, right? Like, that right. To me, that would be difficult.
I mean, that's going to be a true test of how good
he is
at doing it. And I think that's the thing too. Going back to the point that B. Will made about, like, you kind of get better being able to get away from Auburn because you now have to hone in other ways of being able to be a salesman.
He can't sell that same message, right?
Yeah,
right.
That you've got to figure out what the real messaging is going to be, or can you sell somebody else's message, somebody else's history, somebody like he doesn't have a history of a coach like you, but B was saying he don't have guys he could say I put in the league, right? He doesn't have what he can draw on is his experience as a player. He can draw on his experience as others, but he's got to figure out something else. So if he gets that skill and then comes back to Auburn, he's that much better and more valuable as an assistant on a staff here then. So, yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to go to UCF and sell, hey, man, come be a, what are they, Golden Knights?
Yes, yeah.
Come be a Golden Knight because you can.
The Lannisters.
Disney World when you want to. I don't know.
They got knights, right? Come to House of Lannister. We're better than you. We know it. Look, I agree with you. I think the pitch is different, and part of an effective pitch is how much does this person believe what they're telling you. And when people are not being real with you, you can tell. You can tell when people are not being real with you. So he was able to do that here at Auburn. I hope that he's able. My hope for him before we move on to the next topic is that he's able to believe in something as much as he believed in Auburn at UCF. That's my personal hope for him is that he is working. I mean, you guys, we've all worked for corporations. You know what it's like when you work for a corporation that pays you, but you don't like them. They're not a good organization. Now I assume he's going there because, he feels like that's what Gus has, but I hope that's what his experience is, because if that's what his experience is, that's what the recruits will feel on the recruiting trail, and that will make him successful. I just think it's going to be difficult to replace here. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about not really his replacement, but it was reported that Auburn is hiring LSU Director of Player Personnel Will Redmond, right? For a high-ranking personnel and recruiting position with Auburn. Now, we don't know exactly what role he's filling at Auburn yet. The university, from what I understand, has not made an official announcement, but every major outlet has reported that Will Redmond is coming over. His responsibilities at LSU in that capacity, he oversaw prospect evaluations and monitoring prospects throughout the year. Now, he had some, he worked in recruiting at Kansas. He did undergrad at University of Tennessee. He joined the staff at Middle Tennessee. He's been around the block a little bit, both at the Power 5 and the Group 5 level. But he's being praised as the architect of a lot of good things that happened in LSU recruiting. You guys have seen how LSU has recruited over the years. Like, they may have been on the struggle bus here and there, but overall LSU recruiting has been pretty good.
Yeah, the talent has never been the issue down there.
Yeah, does this help fill the role that Travon leaves?
You would have to wonder, okay, so what is the extent of his responsibilities, number one? Okay, what exactly is he going to be doing? I think Brian Harsin had a position here where he hired some guy from the NFL to be like the
Dallas Cowboys guy, right?
Yeah. And I still don't know exactly what his role is. Was his role to say, let me look at the guys who I think would translate well to the league and get those guys in here? I don't know what real Will Redmond's role was, because we've talked about this. LSU is a great job because they have the talent and they get it regardless of who the coach is. Would Will Redmond's job have been difficult there to pull in talent to LSU, who has
no in-state rival,
no in-state rival in an SEC, a football-rich state, where recruiting is probably easier there for top-tier talent because all you got to do is say, "Hey, stay home." I don't know how instrumental he was. Now, for Brian Kelly, I'm sure he was pivotal because Brian Kelly didn't have the roots in that area like some other people did, and he actually kept a lot of coaches who were familiar with the area there specifically to combat that problem. But Will Redmond doing that, being a part of that squad, I still think you have to say, I don't know, man. It's not like Jayden Daniels was a Louisiana guy that was already going to go to LSU no matter what. He was a transfer portal guy. That means you had to see him, make a call on him, decide to bring him in. And year one, he was okay. You won your division, and year 2 he won a Heisman. So if you're gonna say, hey, that guy got me Jaden Daniels, and I'm like, hey, bring him on in. Maybe year 1 under Hugh Freeze, we wouldn't have got Peyton Thorne. We would have got somebody else if he was here to make that call. So if he can protect you from that kind of mistake, hey, short notice, we got to get a guy in here. Who's it gonna be? This guy, that guy. If you're telling me Will Rittman goes, you want that guy?
Yeah, here's
Go
the
get that
list.
guy instead.
1 through 5.
Let me
that's-
help you make this decision because you're about to make the wrong decision. I'm all for it. Yes, get him in here right now. I don't want no repeats this last offseason.
Player evaluations, man.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about talent evaluation on this show and how it's not an exact science. Bringing in a guy like this, if he is, let's follow me to fantasy land here for a second. Let's say he's the best at this, right? Let's say this dude is bee's knees, top notch, top man, right? Like
you went across about 5 decades without. Okay,
that's what I do. B. Take y'all back to the 80s and forward. How big is this? How much of an impact can this have for Auburn football if this guy is? Yeah, because I would say talent evaluation was average in terms
I think,
of class brought in.
What I think the biggest thing, if he's going to be able to help with transfer portal stuff, that's going to be because I think that Coach Hugh Freeze does a great job with high school, right? Like I think he understands what he needs to do to go out there and get high. But the transfer portal is where he himself has admitted he's not very good at. And if Redmond can come in and help get the focus on how to bring in quality transfer portal guys, then this is an A++ hire.
Yeah, and to be clear, that's what I was focusing on with that statement about like talent evaluation. It's not the high school guys, right? When you're going in and you're bringing in top 50 guys, that's not a talent evaluation thing. Everybody universally agrees those guys are top 50 guys, right? Like, if Cam Coleman is a miss, nobody's saying your talent evaluation is off.
Right.
But
because everybody wanted him.
Everybody wanted him. Nobody wouldn't have taken him. But to your point, the transfer portal guys.
Yeah. So if he's going to be a guy that can bring in or can help you sort through who are especially if you're trying to figure out, all right, the can't miss prospects from the portal. Okay, great. Everybody knows that. But who is that diamond in the rough guy that nobody's really looking at? But trust me, when you go get this guy, he's going to be a difference maker for your program. You need those kind of guys in your building to be able to build a program that can compete, especially with talent that it's not hotly contested. Like it's not 15 teams trying to get him. Like if there are multiple teams, Auburn is the premier program in there. It's like everybody's looking like, why did Auburn offer this dude? And then you see him play, you're like, oh, okay. He needs to be one of those guys on the staff.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think that the support staff roles, they don't get talked about enough, but organization behind the scenes has a lot to do with how well an organization is run. And so sometimes the people who aren't what I call front of the house get overlooked.
Yeah.
Right. The guy behind the coach saying, Coach, we need to take a look at this guy. That's not always the assistants. It's not always the coordinators. It's not always your position coaches. Sometimes it's the analysts, the guys who, when we cover basketball games, almost every single game, I'm sitting next to an NBA scout. The guy comes in, and I always make it a point to talk to these guys because I want to know what they see when they come to an Auburn basketball game. Some of them will turn to me and say, who should I be looking at that I'm probably not? Every time I'm like, look, man, Chris Moore is the best player on the scene that nobody's talking about. Trying to get Chris some pub. But
everybody else is just don't take them. They need 5 more years to develop.
I love Chris. But it's interesting seeing they'll either say, I'm coming for this one person. I'm here to see this person. If anybody else stands out, we may put them on the list. But for the most part, coming in, they know what they're looking at. And I have not seen these guys super impressed by anybody very easily when they've come to watch a game. It's just very interesting to me. outside of the person they come, they'll be on their phones and like, you know, one guy asked me about Janai Broom. He said, we're on the fence about Janai Broom. I'll leave the scout anonymous, but he's like, we're on the fence about Janai Broom. And so I want to see a little bit about what he's got tonight. That particular night, Janai had a pretty good game. And, talent evaluate the eye, but I've had other scouts come and sit next to me, and it's like Janai's not even on their radar. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's funny how subjective this particular topic is when it comes to talent evaluation. So the portal is more akin to what happens in the pros, I think, to Ike's point. And having a guy who can look at a guy in the portal and say, hey, this is a guy that we have to have. It's going to be super important. So we'll see if he fills that role for Auburn. Guys, this is the weekend tailgate. Share this video. Help us out. Help get the word of the War Report out using @TheWarReport and hashtag Get Your Weight Up on all social medias. Like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're growing. We just hit 12,000 subs. We're trying to get to 20,000. Help us get there. We're going to be putting out some brand new content for you guys starting this week. So we want everybody to be able to take part in that, spread the word of the War Report so that they can add us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram @The War Report, TW Report on TikTok. Let's pay some bills and we will be right back. Where's the video? There it is.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com. As always, big thank you to the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who continue to be supporters in membership. You can become a member right now by hitting that join button, and you can get all of the great paywall content that we have. Most of it is film review stuff, and we do some other things to give you guys first access to content. But make sure that you go ahead and get that membership active, and we greatly appreciate it. For those of you who would like to gift a membership so someone else can get a free month of membership, you could do that right now in the live chat. And if you interact with our content regularly, but you're not a member, then someone may be gifting you a membership today if they decide to do it. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up in the live chat, and we'll be doing a drawing right around the 1 hour mark to give away this War Report mug, courtesy of GWT Energy Consulting Services. If you got a restaurant, make sure that you hit them up. And then once again, big shout out to the folks over at Golden's Cast Iron.
Yeah.
Company located locally to Auburn in the Columbus area, pretty close. They have this big forge and they make all their stuff locally. And it's really great quality products. Make sure that you hit them up. Code Get Your Weight Up to get 15% off of weights. Code TWR for $65 off of fire pits or Kamado grills. If you've seen our segments with the fireside, that is a Golden's Cast Iron fire pit. Mike G's got one of the grills. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. It's a great grill.
So get it.
Yeah. Valentine's Day is coming, guys. Get your girl a Golden's Cast Iron grill so she can make you your Valentine's dinner of choice. I'm telling you, it's the move.
I thought you was gonna say the kettlebells, right, for getting in shape, and then you was like, "Get your girl a grill."
That would be worse.
Tell
your girl she's not good enough.
Get your girl some weights.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going with the grill. Guys,
ladies, get your man a grill.
Exactly, right?
Hey, rob the jewelry store. Tell him
let's jump back in here with some comments before we move on to the next topic.
By the way, B. Will, I like that.
Appreciate that.
Tim the 2-Man Taylor says, "Can we stop calling for BP's job?"
We're gonna talk basketball here in a minute. I don't even understand people who are doing this. I get it, knee-jerk reactions and everything, but come on, man.
Yeah,
we are a football school. It's clear that many of us just don't know ball. I'm not even saying that to be condescending. It's clear as a football fan base primarily, a lot of us fans don't know ball. We just know that we want our programs to do well, which is fine. But we gotta calm down.
Yeah, for sure. Brad Browning says, hopefully a DC hire is around the corner. I know this has been anticipate like where everybody is just on pins and needles about this DC hire. DJ Durkin seemed to be the name at the top of the list, but it looks like they may have hit some snags in trying to get him hired. There may be some moral pushback around Durkin, given what happened with him at a previous stop. What do we think about DC hire around the corner?
I still think it's going to be Durkin right now. If you ask me to put, I'm not a betting man, but if I were putting my chips down, I'd be putting it on the DJ Durkin square, and
all right,
we'll see what actually happens here.
I liked Arnett, so I'm a little disappointed that it's not Arnett, or that he's not apparently in the runnings. But I mean, that doesn't. Maybe he just didn't want to come here. That could be part of it. But
yeah, I don't know what happened with Arnett's situation.
Yeah, Greg Wheatley says this is not looking good. Nobody sells AU like AU people. Very disappointing.
That's true.
I mean, but that's not true though. That's not true. Look at some of the best recruiting classes we have, and tell me who was the AU person that sold those guys. When you think about Derek Brown and them, who was the Auburn guy that told Derek Brown, "Hey man, you definitely got to come here"?
It was Rodney G.
Rodney Gunner.
Yeah, he was. Wait, did he play for Auburn?
Yeah, I think Rodney was an Auburn guy, right?
Am I making that up, or did he actually play for Auburn?
I'm pretty sure he did. I don't know.
It's not that you have to be an Auburn guy to recruit Auburn. Will I definitely think if you're a good recruiter, you're a good recruiter.
But was Rodney Garner the lead recruiter for Derek Brown?
Well, I know that Derek Brown has always said that
I was told that he was. Yeah, okay. I was told.
All right,
was.
Well, I'll take it back then. I don't know.
I'll
take it back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not that you can't still be an elite recruiter, because there are guys who are elite recruiters wherever they're at, everywhere they go. Mario Cristobal is an elite recruiter, and he was one before he got to Miami where he played. But don't you think that becomes an easier sell? Either it's easier for him or it just takes it up another notch when you're recruiting to the school where you played.
Yeah. True. Elite commenter Haley Tubb says, Wardam fam, T. Reed leaving hurts. I agree. It does hurt. I think it hurts.
It does have him as a lead recruiter. I take it back. Derek Brown, 3 recruiters, Rodney Gardner.
All right.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
You know what would have been a better example, though? Trooper Taylor, elite recruiter, did not play for Auburn.
Yeah.
That's the example.
Recruiter.
Yeah. So yes, of course, elite recruiters are elite wherever they go.
Marcus Holland says, I can't blame any of these guys from wanting to further their careers. They have to get on the field experience somewhere. If not here, they got to leave. That's factual statement. Brad Browning comes back and says, I feel like the writing was on the wall with Travon when Redding was hired. What concerns me is that talk about changing culture.
Redmond.
Oh, Redmond. Yeah. Okay. What concerns me is all the talk about changing culture, and then all the prior AU guys left. That timing, I could see how the timing might worry you. Like, I don't think all these situations are the same, though.
No, they're not.
I don't think they're the same. Tim the Two-Man Taylor comes back and says, I wouldn't want Reed to cut his teeth here. The fans would destroy him, in my opinion. I think he would have a longer leash than most former players turned Auburn. I think he's that loved, right? I think there would be a little bit more grace than there might be for some other guys.
I don't know, cuz.
Bruce Pearl is the best basketball coach probably we've ever had, and people out here trying to fire Bruce Pearl after 2 road losses. So, I mean, would some fans be clamoring and sticking out their chest too far in anger at Travon Reed if whatever position he coached wasn't playing well? Yes, they would.
If them DBs was out there getting cooked, they be 100% be like, should have never brought him onto the field. You're a terrible evaluator, coaches.
Yeah. Last comment before we get to the next subject. Ben Blower says, my biggest fear from losing these coaches is if we have another subpar season, the temptation to jump ship into the portal will be that much stronger for the players they recruited.
This is real.
Now, let me tell you something. I think that this was always going to be a very strong thing that they were going to have to combat anyway. Last season, I'll say this to all blue in the face, and this will probably be my hot take that creates a message board thread. Last season, you did not show enough on the field to guarantee that all these highly recruited kids are going to stick around for year two. They've all got a freebie in their back pocket. And coaches have come out and openly talked to guys about how hard it is re-recruiting your current roster every year now. A significant amount of time is dedicated after the season is over to immediately contacting players, trying to figure out where everybody stands. We've heard stories of players going dark on coaches, and now they're worried, like he's not answering my calls all of a sudden. The season just ended. His locker's cleaned out. His dorm room key has been turned in. And then next thing I know, I turn on Twitter and he's gone. Before the coaches even got a chance to really try to re-recruit the player.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening, and this is real. And you would be foolish to think a guy like Cam Coleman is going to get 20-something targets in 2024 and not be a risk to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And if that sounds extreme, Auburn's top receivers, I think maybe had like 40-something targets on the season between Fair and Rivaldo Fairweather.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Your Fair wasn't in your name, you weren't eating last year, right? Like it was the Fair, it was the Fairs and everybody else. So I don't know how it's got to look better. I think in year two, and I don't think it necessarily has to be the reprieve I give the staff is I will die on this hill. I think you can do that and win 7 games. I think the league is that tough where you can have a good offense and maybe have some defensive struggles, but show some improvement. And these guys feel good about the opportunities that they're getting, even if it's not resulting in a 10-win season. There just can't be a 5-win season or a 4-win season. But I think a 7-win season you can move this team forward. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree that there's definitely a way to show improvement that won't necessarily impact wins and losses.
Correct. Yeah, and I'll still feel good about Freeze going into year 3. So I'm not really looking at wins and losses unless it falls so far below the threshold that you need to be worried, right? So no more New Mexico States, obviously, in 2024, right? They play New Mexico and ULM, right?
And Vanderbilt.
Might as well be a group of 5. Gotcha.
I'm just saying, it's just Diego Pavi is their quarterback now, man.
No.
And
Toss.
That's a toss. Jerry Kill's an analyst on that staff now, man.
That's a toss.
Yeah.
That's a toss.
Let's we ran over. Let's jump into the next topic here, guys. Auburn basketball entered the top 10 at number 8 last week, and then lost to 2 road games. The question that I pose to you, gentlemen, is: should fans be worried about Auburn on the road come tournament time when they have to play at neutral sites? They haven't lost a home game yet this season, but no quad 1 wins. And, these road losses, they've been losses, but they've been close. These have been tightly contested games. Is there a worry for Bruce Pearl's squad come tournament time?
I'm going to say, I think that you'd be silly to say there's no worry, but I think you'd also have to take into account that that's the case for literally everybody. Yeah. And it'd be different. It's different when it's a neutral site game than an actual road game too, right? Because the environment's going to have more evenly distributed fans.
Which neutral site games did they play this year? They played in Atlanta against Indiana, and they blew them out, right? And I thought there was one more.
There were 2 more, but the Baylor game, which they lost the first game of the season, was a neutral site game.
Okay.
And then
they played. It was close.
Yeah, the one in Huntsville versus UNC Asheville, I think is who it was.
Yes, correct.
And that
Appalachian State was at Appalachian State, right?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, all right.
So yes, I think that it's you would be you can't look at the facts of how they're playing and say I have no worries about them outside of Neville Arena, especially because they haven't won a quad 1 game, right? Like had they gotten a quad 1 game on a neutral site, then you could say, oh, but listen, it's not. It's really just true road games. But when you get into the tournament, it's not a true road game. It is a neutral site game, and so that's not going to exactly be the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's some significant worry to be had, but I caution making tournament predictions, and this is why I've always been hesitant to say I think that they're a good team and they should still be a team that can get into Sweet 16 type of place.
Right.
But you don't know today what that team is going to be or who the other teams are going to be at that point in time. But they need to get a road win because they need to prove that they can win one of these games where it's not a blowout.
Yeah, so St. Bonaventure and Notre Dame were in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, and I forgot about those two.
Yeah, it was technically like a tournament, just for, But B, what is their worry come tournament time? Like Jabari's year, the team had some noted struggles scoring at times.
Yeah.
This team doesn't really struggle scoring. I think that not enough people were giving Mississippi State's defense enough credit for the game that they played. Is there legitimate worry here, or what's the level of worry? 1 to 10, based on these road results.
I'm okay. If 10 is I'm jumping out my window because I'm scared to death, then I'm at like a 2 right now.
Okay.
2.
Not worried at all? All right.
No, I'm not. The reason I'm not worried is because when you play a really good defensive team, let's start with this. We get the benefit of what I'm about to describe, which is they're going to scout for you all week, and they're going to be like, hey, when you were doing that, you can't get away with that here. You got to be careful with that. Hey, you remember they're really good at doing this. So when we run this action, you got to be aware of this because they'll pick your pocket. And when you get in there, you're running your action, but when you would have seen like at the game at Alabama where our guys played pretty loose. We played too loose was the problem. Early, we were careless with the ball. Passes that should have been routine, just passing out of the corner, going back to the top of the key, lazy passes. Guys not moving his body to go get that pass, and it gets picked off, or we just throwing it out of bounds. Like unforced errors were the issue at Alabama. Against the Mississippi State team, what I saw was a heightened awareness that this team, you can't get away with that. And when that happens, teams play conservative. You get tight. Your early action doesn't work because a good defensive team would have been prepared for your early action to get this one guy open in this one spot. Oh, well, they were on that. So what we're going to do now? Now it's on me, the guy with the ball right now, to make something happen because we got like 8 seconds left on the clock. Okay? If your concern is, well, when it comes down to that one guy having the ball and having him to get a bucket, we don't look great. I would venture nobody's going to look great against a really good defensive team in that situation, unless you got a guy that's like special. Okay. Mike, you were talking about guys coming to scout the college players. We don't have a guy that's going to go top 5, top 10 right. NBA. We don't have a lottery pick on this team. And that's not a disrespect to our players because usually that's about measurables and athleticism and things that we aren't just out of this world at in any one position here. But what we do have are guys who can get a bucket. What I think we're seeing is Denver Jones, Aiden Holloway, 2 guys who we should be able to say, hey, man, you can get us a bucket. They're still transitioning from the level they played at last year to the level they play at this year. And Channing Johnson to a certain extent as well.
Aiden Holloway didn't hit a shot versus Alabama.
Right.
Not a single shot.
That is what I see happening more than anything. The guys who were not playing at this level last year are struggling on the road and specifically in these environments this year. That is something they have to be familiar with. They have to become more comfortable with playing this way. And then when you get to the last third of the SEC schedule, things start to look a little more fluid. And you're like, hey, he did it. Look at that. It happened. Yes, but that takes time. The good thing about this team is you have so many other players who are experienced enough to hold things down for you to the point where you just got to wait for the newer guys to come around. Now, does that mean we'll have some early losses? Yes, like we've had some early losses. But to Bruce's point, because Bruce tweeted this out, we aren't getting blown out by anybody. Right. Alabama just took a 20-piece on the head at Tennessee. We're not losing by 20 to nobody. Like, I don't even think we'll get even close to that type of loss this season because we have so much experience at so many positions that will keep it from getting out of hand. But when the guys whose number one job is get me a bucket still have to get their feet up underneath them in conference play on the road, it's going to look like this. I'm not worried because we have time.
Part of Auburn's offensive, I don't want to, resurgence this year has been about Jalen Williams scoring, right? The last 2 games, Jalen has struggled mightily. 3 for 9 from the field versus Alabama, 3 for 11 from the field versus Mississippi State. He did not hit a single 3-point shot in either of those contests. What is it with home Jalen Williams versus road Jalen Williams? I know, and it's by no means just him. But
yeah, I don't even think I think it's just these 2 games for some reason, because road Jalen Williams at Arkansas and road Jalen Williams at Vanderbilt, he didn't have it. Matter of fact, Vanderbilt, he didn't miss a single shot. Right?
Yeah, that's right. He went 7 for 7.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know what it was about this road trip in particular for Jay Will, but he came out in the first half of Bama and he looked bad. There's no 2 ways about it. He didn't look good in the first half versus Bama. He looked much better in the second half. Didn't look good first half.
I thought him in Alabama.
I thought he was about to break out and come back after he dunked on old buddy first half versus Mississippi State. I was like, okay, Jay Will is back to being his aggressive self. And he just kind of moved in and out of the Jay Will that we hoped to see and the Jay Will that we kind of got frustrated with looking at throughout that game. And I don't know what the reasoning for that was. But yeah, I think that what he has proven in that stint is that how crucial he is. I think I was having this conversation on one of the Lobcam podcasts. Somebody said, I think that Jay Will's the best player on this team. And I was like, I don't know about best, but I do think he's the most important. Mike, you made this delineation. We talked about Walker Kessler versus Jabari Smith during that season about, yes, Jabari is the best player on this team, but the guy that you need to be the engine for how things work the way that this team works is Walker Kessler.
Yeah.
When Walker Kessler's playing well, when he's blocking shots, when he's getting rebounds, when he's catching lobs, the team's just better offensively because it makes teams have to play the inside differently on both ends of the floor. When Jalen Williams is hitting 60% of his shots on a game or better, this Auburn team's almost unbeatable. Because he gives you an element nobody else can give you, which is 3-level scoring plus size plus just the ability to jump over the top. Like, he just gives you he got the putback dunk in this game. That shows you, okay, his athleticism, but he's got to hit a couple of those threes. He just has to.
Right.
When Jay Will goes 0 for 3, 0 from the 3-point line, this team's different offensively. Just a different team.
Right.
Yeah. Let's pivot a little bit here and talk about the young guy, Aiden Holloway. I want to go back to him. Again, 0 for 7 versus Alabama, 0 for 5. Trey Donaldson in that game was 3 for 5, 2 for 3 from 3-pointers. The point guard rotation here, given the type of day that Aiden was having, could Bruce Pearl have pivoted a little bit more to Trey Donaldson for some scoring? Aiden played 4 more minutes than Trey did, but he was clearly struggling.
He came off the bench.
Yeah, he was clearly struggling though in that game, and you lost the game by 4 points. 5 more points from Trey Donaldson make the difference here. Like, how is Bruce Pearl handling this rotation of his point guards on the road?
So the thing that I would say I understand why Bruce is doing it is because how else is Aiden Holloway going to get better at this unless he's doing it? Like, that's the number one thing. Like, he could be like, well, we got to win this game. Yeah, but we don't. We can still win the conference. We got to stomach
some losses for growth. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you have to. I mean,
that's the same conversation we have about the quarterback position, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You invest knowing that not everything is going to be perfect, but hopefully by the time you get to the meat of your schedule, guys understand their roles and they're better at performing.
Yeah, because you're not in danger of not making the tournament, right? Like, this team is going to make the tournament. You're playing for seeding, preferable seeding, essentially, but right now they're just a 4-loss team.
Right.
They're a 4-loss team, and they have a chance to finish strong here. Aiden Holloway, again, McDonald's All-Man. I had an NBA scout ask me about Aiden Holloway, and we sat there and we played. He didn't play particularly well the game that we were at, but he hit some shots that are like current day NBA type shots. The Steph Curry deep 3 type shots, and the scout noted him hitting those shots. I think that some of this shooting over the last, it was some of their worst shooting of the season.
Right.
Yes,
and they still lost by less than 2 possessions in the 2 games, right? Like they lost by 6, obviously, to Mississippi State, but you know how the free throw game went at the end. Ike, I want to talk a little bit to close out this segment about game management. Bruce Pearl has taken some heat over the last couple of years for some of the sets he's run and some of the things that he's tried to do over the last part of the game. Auburn made a decision to guard instead of play the foul game at the end. Like, what did you think of how they managed that last minute or so of the Mississippi State game?
I didn't have any issue with the way that the game was managed. I think that the issue is, well, I'll just answer the question more directly. Yeah, I don't have any issue with how Coach Bruce Pearl did anything at the end of that game. You want your guys to go out there and make plays. You still had time to try to defend and get a foul. Defend and get a steal without fouling, and then potentially, flip the game on its head without having to make it a free throw contest. The only thing I would say in rebut to any of that is that Mississippi State's not a great free throw team, so you just try to foul somebody who doesn't shoot free throws particularly well potentially. But for whatever reason, at the end of the game, they started making them. They were missing them the entire game, and then you got down there towards the end, and they couldn't miss a free throw. So yeah, I don't really have any issue with the way that he managed that. I just think that they've got to get better shots in some of those scenarios, and that's, to me, that's the biggest issue with this team right now, is finding out late game who's going to be the guy that can either make shots for you or get to the free throw line and make free throws. And I don't think that they've decided this is who we're going to roll with in those scenarios.
Yeah. Brian, 33% shooting from the field for Auburn, 19 of 56. Like one of the worst shooting but credit Mississippi State's defense. However, you're going to face tough defenses come tournament time. It's only going to get tighter. How does Auburn solve this? What happens the next time they face a Mississippi State type defense, and what adjustments does Bruce Pearl make?
I want to say at Tennessee is the next time we play a defensive team that's really good defensively, and we'll be on the road again. And this has to be, I want to say that has to be a scary game for that reason, but it will still be a game that you have to circle now. This team didn't do multiple things well. And Bruce said this again, he tweeted this out. We didn't shoot well. So it's not like we played our best possible game and then we lost. It's like we just, a few more shots fall and this is a win. And then, we aren't so concerned right now.
Only 11 turnovers against Mississippi State.
Right.
Correct.
Now that would be the thing. I was like, that was a pretty good game, though, considering how we had been turning the ball over the last game. That was a really good game, and you lost that one. But that's what happens when you play a really good defensive team. Like, I don't have to turn you over. The shots that were easy for you, they're not going to be easy anymore. This team, I do think one of the guys who is really good at scoring is going to have to be the guy, or maybe Trey's on the floor in crunch time along with Aiden, because I realize why you don't want to take that shooting off the floor. But I would love to have somebody else who I feel like, okay, KD can do it. KD can go and get you a bucket late. Trey Donaldson, I don't have many complaints about his game at all this season. Like, he's doing his best with the minutes that he's given. He's hitting big shots when we need them. Now, they're in the rhythm of the game. They're not in clutch time because he's not really on the floor in clutch time. But I don't know, man. Like, I would play him more because to me, he seems to have a sense of the moment that our other primary ball handlers don't seem to have to this point in the season. That's what I'll say. He can have the ball in his hands, make the right decision, and hit a big bucket. And I think he should probably be on the floor, even if you don't want to sacrifice Aiden's minutes to do it. I think we see that down the stretch of SEC play at the very least, because it seems like a really good option to me.
Yeah. It's, again, scoring here. Chaney Johnson, has not seen as many minutes, but he's played fairly efficiently over the last few games. And Janai Broome, 11 for 17, 25 points versus Alabama. He had a reduced scoring load. He still led Auburn in scoring, 5 of 7 from the field, 14 points. He hit a 3. He hit the only 3 that he took. Do they feed Janai Broome more in these tight games? Is that the answer here?
100% yes. The answer is feed Janai Broome more. I think you win that Bama game if you feed Janai Broome more in the second half of that game. I don't know that you definitely win the Mississippi State game, but you at least make Mississippi State play you differently defensively if you feed Janai Broome more. The only reason why I say that about Mississippi State is he was tired, bro. Like he was clearly exhausted at the end of that game. Though he still was making shots, you could tell it's almost as if he was doing the reverse of what Auburn needed him to do, since they weren't giving him the ball, which is he was using a bunch of energy on offense and then he wouldn't have it for defense. And he really needed to like take a break on offense, move out of the action. Let's get into this, 5-out offense and let guys get downhill in that way. And then just do your best on defense and just devote all of your energy to securing boards. But he was exhausted. So I don't know how you play through a guy who looks beat down like that at the end of the game. But I think that you do have to figure out how to get the ball to Janai Broome more, especially if he's going to shoot free throws the way he has been shooting them recently.
Right. He's picked it up.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what Auburn can do here. Their next game is Vanderbilt, Wednesday the 31st. They're coming home at Auburn Arena. You can get tickets to that game.
And Neville Arena.
I'm sorry, at Neville Arena.
They paid a lot of money to have that name up front.
The Nevilles have paid a lot of money. Also, want to give a shout out to Auburn women's basketball. They are back in action on the 29th versus Georgia. Johnny Harris's squad is coming off a big win versus rival Alabama. They retired DeWanna Bonner's number. It was an emotional night, I think. And honestly, Scott Grayson has continued to be a warrior in the SEC this year. I think personally, a little bit of homerism in this statement that she should be in the running for SEC Player of the Year. We'll see how they close out the season. In the conversation, I'm not saying she should win it. I'm just saying, like, if you're talking about top 5 best players in the league right now, honestly, Scott Grayson should be talked about. Even if she's fringe. Okay. Come on, man.
I'll give you fringe.
Yeah, get all this.
There's some, and that's not disrespect to honesty. I think she's amazing. There's just some really good players in the SEC.
Sure.
Really good players.
Again, we'll see how she closes out the season, but a lot of excitement around women's basketball. And in my conversations with Coach Harris, they think internally in the program that the SEC win number is 6. 6 SEC wins will get them to the tournament. So we'll see. They've got 2 right now. They get Georgia. That's 3. They'll be 3 and 4 in conference. But South Carolina comes to town. Like LSU was packed. When number 1 South Carolina comes to Neville Arena, it's going to be interesting to see if fans show up to that one.
Yeah,
those girls need you for that game. It's going to be all out war, and they get if you watch this team, we sit courtside for a lot of these. They feed off of the crowd. They do. I mean, when the crowd gets going, this team, especially, I know most teams do, but these girls especially feed off of it. They gain power from your cheers, and I think making it loud there will make it hostile for South Carolina. Every opposing coach that's come into the post game and talked about Neville Arena being just a crazy environment. It's about that time. Let's give away something, guys. We're giving away a mug. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. Ike is not going to wait, so I'm going to talk while this graphic is up for another 10 seconds while y'all get in. As a favor, one-time courtesy to get into this drawing, because as soon as I pull this banner down, it's on. It's down. It's on.
Y'all lucky I didn't just hit the button while I was behind it doing all the extra stuff. You had a whole hour to figure out if you wanted to type some letters in. So
yeah. Oh. Chris S.
Definitely. Chris S. is always here. So what's up, Chris?
But you got to say something in the comments. Chris S. holla at us to claim your prize. While we're waiting on Chris, if you guys see him in the comments, shout him out. Let's get to some of your comments before we get out of here. Ben Blower says, my biggest fear from losing these coaches is if we have another subpar season, the temptation.
We got that
one. We did that. Yeah. Sorry. Love Ben. Just thought I'd read his comment twice. Susan Scales, T. Reed can sell his relationship he had as a player with Gus.
That's true. Well, if he was recruiting 2010, Gus was just a coordinator then, right?
Yeah, but he would have been here still on the team.
Yeah, he can speak to what it's like playing for Gus, right? He went to a national title with Gus as he was he still on the team in 2013?
If he was a recruit in 2010, he definitely would have
10, 11, 12, 30. Yeah, he would have been. Yeah.
So he went to a national title under Gus as head coach and under him as offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He went to 2 national title games under Gus, technically. So, yeah, I think that would be an effective sell. Robin Rayner says, won't the Will Redmond hire overlap some of Travon's duties? I think that's what we're waiting to see. Some of these administrative positions, man, it's like they give you a title, but what they have you do sometimes is different depending on how they decide to outline the position. So they might throw some duties in there or take some away depending on what other people do well. We hope to get more details from the university here pretty soon on what he will be functioning as here at Auburn. Redmond is one that got Jaden Daniels from Arizona State.
Hire him. Hired. Get him in here right now.
You said you got Jaden Daniels from Arizona State.
Hey, listen, it clearly is not an exact science evaluating transfer portal quarterbacks.
Yes.
So having somebody who has gotten that right once before, I am in favor of.
I was still living in Phoenix when Jaden Daniels first got to Arizona State, and I remember the buzz around campus being very high around that young man. His talent was clear at that point. Arizona State was kind of a mess there for a little bit. They hired Herm, and like some things didn't go their way. But ultimately, he came to a better football culture. So if Will Redmond can go out and get the next Jaden Daniels, I'm all about it. Kelsey Garner says, LOL, I get what you're saying. Derek Brown was a bad example, though, but the 2010
It was a bad example. I look really dumb by saying that, but it's all good.
I
say dumb things often, so I get used to it.
No Auburn guys recruiting in 2010? Interesting. Chris S. says, it's Chris. Yeah, I don't know how long ago this was. Need to see them win close games, road games, and top 50 NETs. Yeah. So, yep, I agree. And he also says, I'm here. So Chris is here. Chris, you know what to do. Email us at the War Report with your address so that we can get that over to you. business@thewarreport.com. Send us an email so we know where to send that mug. We appreciate you for showing up today. Guys, that's it for another great weekend tailgate. As always, share our videos using @thewarreport on social media, hashtag get your weight up, like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us in the algorithm. You can add us on social media @the War Report on Twitter and Instagram, TW Report on TikTok. All right, before we get out of here, tell people what they can do.
Man, you can sign up for one of these good old green name memberships, and I think I'm gonna do a little bit more basketball this week. I still have plenty of football to get into, so make sure you're signed up so we can go watch the film together. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that right now, and somebody will get a free month on you. And then go listen to us out here on the pod networks: Auburn Express, Uptempo Podcast, College Loop, and Just a Sec Pod. We got audio only versions of all of this great content for y'all.
That's it, guys. We'll be back at you tomorrow with the morning drop. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.